Joining us now, former host of MSNBC's Hardball, Chris Matthews. Yay, former Ohio.
Here I am.
Here you are. Former Ohio State Senator and former national co-chair for Bernie Sanders' presidential campaign, Nina Turner, staff writer for The Atlantic and MSNBC political analyst Ashley Parker, and former Republican congressman from Virginia, Barbara Comstock. All right.
That's a mixed bag.
It is. We tried to make it interesting for your triumphant return to the 2 p.m. hour. 3 p.m. hour of MSNBC. Welcome back, Chris.
Bobby. Lessons from Bobby.
Yeah, well, let's talk about Epstein first. We're going to get there. We got you for 2
Do you
blocks.
know why the Republicans have fought to the last person on this, and why Mike Johnson's taken up the cause? Why is he in this cause? Who whispered to him there's some reason to hold this list? I don't know.
Don Bacon, Republican from Nebraska, just on. He said that he believes this will get to the floor and he will vote yes.
But it won't get past the Senate or the president.
If it does get to the...
Okay, so picture this. You're watching live television, a news show, and suddenly two Republican members of Congress start going at each other, not politely disagreeing, actually fighting, accusing each other of betrayal, of falling into traps, of putting personal ambition above party loyalty, and it's all about Trump, about whether to protect him or hold him accountable, about whether party unity matters more than transparency. And this isn't happening behind closed doors. This isn't private party meetings where disagreements stay internal. This is on live TV for everyone to see. Republicans publicly tearing each other apart over what to do about Trump's legal problems, and specifically over whether to release the Jeffrey Epstein files, those documents that everyone's been talking about that allegedly contain information about powerful people and their connections to a convicted sex offender. And some Republicans want them released, want full transparency, want the public to know the truth, but others, including Trump himself, are fighting to keep them buried, are pressuring their colleagues to vote against release, are warning that only bad or stupid Republicans would fall into this trap. But before we go any further, real quick, let's be honest, you can't really trust mainstream media anymore. That's why we built Pump Politics, to bring you real stories, real context, and no corporate spin. If you want to stay ahead of the headlines, join our free newsletter. We'll send the news straight to your inbox every day. Just click the link in the description to join. And if you just want to support what we're doing, join us. Be part of the community that actually cares about the truth. All right, let's get back to the video.
When it comes to health care, but one of the reasons why he does not care, and the irony of this, is that him and the members of Congress, they're on the taxpayers' health care plan. And so they're treating the American people, the very people that put him there, and then even some of those who didn't. But once he took the oath of office, his job is to serve the people, to allow people to starve. You're going to argue, send your Justice Department before the United States Supreme Court so that you don't have to release contingency funds so that people can eat. Kate, this is worse than let them eat cake. This is let them eat absolutely nothing.
So,
this is not why people didn't vote for the president for this.
So, Ashley, we talked about this a little bit earlier, and I'd love you to weigh in on this as well. The shutdown did reveal quite a dark side of Donald Trump. Posting about the Grim Reaper coming to slash government jobs, laying off workers, just wait, suing states to say, no, you can't.
And that's creating this massive split, this visible fracture in the Republican Party that's playing out on television. Lauren Boebert broke ranks. Thomas Massie broke ranks. Some of the most conservative, most pro-Trump members of Congress are saying we need to release these files. We need accountability. We can't keep covering things up. And other Republicans are furious about it, are accusing them of betraying Trump, of helping Democrats, of putting the party at risk going into 2026. And the fights are brutal, personal, the kind of attacks that usually stay private. But now they're happening on cable news, on morning shows, during House floor debates, everywhere. And the American people are watching Republicans implode in real time, watching a party that's supposed to be unified descend into civil war over whether to protect Trump or protect their own political futures. Speaker Mike Johnson is right in the middle of this. He's been pressuring House Republicans to stop supporting the discharge petition. That's the mechanism that will force a vote on releasing the Epstein files. And Johnson doesn't want that vote, doesn't want his members on record about this, doesn't want the political fallout, but he's losing control. Members are defying him, signing the petition anyway, and publicly defending their decision, saying the party can't afford another scandal cover-up, saying independent voters are watching, saying if we look like we're protecting powerful people who did terrible things, we'll lose elections. And they're not wrong, because polling shows voters want transparency, want to know the truth about Epstein and his connections, want powerful people held accountable. And when Republicans fight to keep documents secret, when they pressure members to block release, it looks like a cover-up, looks like they're protecting someone. And voters notice, The House Oversight Committee just released over 20,000 Epstein-related documents. 20,000. That's not a small leak. That's a massive document dump. And buried in there are messages implicating Trump, communications that raise questions about his connections to Epstein, about what he knew, about what he was involved in, and Republicans have to decide how to respond. Do they defend Trump? Do they dismiss the documents as old news? Do they investigate further? Do they demand more transparency? And different Republicans are making different choices, and those choices are putting them at odds with each other, creating these public battles, these televised clashes, these moments where the party's unity completely breaks down. And Trump himself is making it worse. He's not staying quiet, not letting his lawyers handle it. He's out there on social media warning Republicans, saying only very bad or very stupid Republicans would support releasing these files, calling it a trap, claiming Democrats are using Epstein to attack him politically and demanding loyalty, demanding that Republicans protect him, and some are listening, are falling in line, are voting the way Trump wants, but others aren't, are deciding that their own political survival matters more than Trump's demands, that protecting their districts matters more than protecting Trump, and that split, that decision by some Republicans to break with Trump, is creating these explosive confrontations, these moments where Republicans attack each other on live television, where unity is replaced by finger-pointing and accusations. The moderates in the party are particularly vocal. They're saying the party can't afford another scandal cover-up, that they're already struggling with independent voters, already dealing with the aftermath of the shutdown chaos, already facing questions about whether they can govern, and if they add looking like they're covering up Epstein connections, they're done. They'll lose 2026, they'll lose credibility, they'll lose any chance of broadening their appeal beyond the MAGA base. So they're pushing for transparency, for releasing the files, for showing voters that Republicans care about accountability, even if it hurts Trump, even if it creates political problems, because they think the alternative is worse, think that being seen as complicit in a cover-up destroys them politically. And the pro-Trump wing is saying that's falling into a Democrat trap, that this is all designed to damage Trump in the party, that Democrats are weaponizing Epstein's name to create scandal where there isn't one, that Republicans need to stick together, need to defend their leader, need to show unity instead of fracturing, and these two factions are at war, not just disagreeing, but genuinely at war, questioning each other's motives, accusing each other of betrayal, creating the kind of divisions that could permanently damage the party, and it's all happening on live TV, all visible to voters, all creating headlines, all making Republicans look dysfunctional and divided, and Democrats are loving it, are watching Republicans tear each other apart, are preparing to use all of this in campaign ads, are positioning themselves as the party that can actually govern, while Republicans fight amongst themselves. So buckle up, because we're about to break down exactly what's causing this split and why it matters so much for the future of the Republican Party. Alright, let's dig into what's actually happening here, because this isn't just random fighting, this is a fundamental disagreement about the future of the Republican Party, about whether being the party of Trump is worth the cost, about whether loyalty to one person matters more than winning elections, about whether transparency or protection should be the priority, and these questions are creating real bitter divisions. So let's start with the Epstein files. For years, there's been this demand for transparency about Jeffrey Epstein, about his connections to powerful people, about what happened, about who knew what, and there are documents, lots of documents, some already public, some still sealed, and there's this push, primarily from Democrats, but also from some Republicans, to release everything, to let the public see the full truth, and that's led to a discharge petition in the House. This is a mechanism where if you get enough signatures, you can force a floor vote on something even if leadership doesn't want it, and the petition is to force a vote on releasing the Epstein files, making them public. No more secrets. And here's where it gets interesting. You'd think Republicans would unanimously oppose this, would stick together to protect Trump and other powerful Republicans who might be implicated, but that's not happening. Some of the most conservative members, people like Lauren Boebert and Thomas Massie, are signing the petition, are publicly supporting release, and they're not doing it quietly. They're defending their decision on TV, on social media, in interviews, saying that sunlight is the best disinfectant, saying the party needs to stand for accountability, saying that covering up for powerful people is wrong regardless of party, and their stance is infuriating the pro-Trump wing, because Trump himself has been very clear he doesn't want these files released. He's called it a trap, warned Republicans not to support it, and when members of his own party defy him, when conservative Republicans break ranks, it undermines his authority, shows that his grip on the party isn't absolute, that some Republicans are willing to cross him. Speaker Johnson is caught in the middle. He's been pressuring members not to sign the discharge petition, making calls, having meetings, warning that this will hurt the party, but he's not succeeding. Members are signing anyway, and Johnson can't punish all of them, can't strip committee assignments from everyone who defies him, can't maintain discipline when the rebellion includes some of his most conservative members, so he's losing control, and that's dangerous for him personally, because if he can't control his caucus on this, what can he control them on? If members feel free to defy leadership on a Trump priority, what other defections are coming? And Johnson's already weak, already survived a near shutdown disaster, already facing questions about his leadership, and now this, another crisis, another moment where his authority is being challenged, another instance of Republicans publicly fighting instead of unifying. The live TV clashes are remarkable. During one segment, a pro-Trump Republican accused colleagues who support release of being naive, of falling into a Democrat trap, of not understanding that this is all political theater designed to hurt Trump and the party, and a moderate Republican fired back, said the only trap is pretending everything's fine, said voters aren't stupid, said they can see when Republicans are trying to hide something, and the exchange got heated, voices raised, interrupting each other, the kind of confrontation that makes for viral clips, that gets shared on social media, that defines how people see the party, and it's not just one incident. These clashes are happening across multiple shows, multiple forums. Republicans are going on TV and attacking each other, questioning each other's motives, drawing lines, and the effect is devastating for party unity. The House Oversight Committee's document release made everything worse. 20,000 pages of Epstein-related materials. That's overwhelming. That's more than anyone can process quickly. And buried in there are communications involving Trump. Nothing that proves criminal conduct necessarily, but enough to raise questions, enough to keep the story alive, enough to give Democrats ammunition. And Republicans have to respond, have to decide how to talk about it, and they can't agree. Some say ignore it, say it's old news, say we've moved on. Others say we need to investigate further, need to understand what happened, need to show voters we take accountability seriously. And those conflicting messages create confusion, make the party look disorganized, make it seem like Republicans don't know what they stand for, beyond defending Trump. Trump's response has been characteristically aggressive. He's not accepting the defections quietly. He's attacking the Republicans who broke ranks, calling them stupid, calling them bad, warning that they'll regret it, trying to use fear and intimidation to bring them back in line, but it's not working as well as it used to, because some Republicans have decided they're more afraid of voters than they are of Trump, more worried about losing their seats than about Trump's anger. And that calculation changes everything, because Trump's power has always been based on fear, on the belief that crossing him means political death. But if some Republicans cross him and survive, if they win their primaries despite his opposition, then the fear dissipates. Then other Republicans feel emboldened to break ranks too, and Trump's control crumbles. The broader context matters too. This isn't happening in isolation. Republicans are already dealing with shutdown fallout, with questions about whether they can govern, with cabinet dysfunction in Trump's administration, with DOJ revelations about conflicts of interest, with Supreme Court defeats. Everything is piling up. Every new scandal or crisis adds to the sense that Republicans are in chaos, that they can't get anything done, that they're more interested in fighting each other than in solving problems, and that's politically toxic, especially with independent voters, especially with swing district voters who decide elections. These voters don't want drama, don't want chaos, don't want constant scandal. They want competent governance, want adults who can run the country. And when Republicans spend all their time on live TV fighting about whether to protect Trump, when they can't even agree on basic questions of transparency, those voters tune out. Or worse, they decide Democrats are the better option. The divide between MAGA Republicans and moderates has never been more visible. MAGA Republicans see defending Trump as the ultimate priority, see any investigation or transparency effort as a threat, see party loyalty as absolute. But moderates see political survival as the priority, see defending Trump on every issue as electoral suicide, see the need to appeal beyond the base, and those worldviews are incompatible, can't be reconciled through compromise or negotiation. So the party is pulling in two directions, and that tension is creating these explosive moments, these televised fights, these public displays of disunity that hurt everyone. Because when voters see Republicans attacking each other, they don't think, wow, healthy debate. They think these people are a mess. I don't trust them with power. There's also a generational component. Some younger Republicans, some who aren't as tied to Trump personally, are looking ahead to 2028 and beyond, are thinking about what the party needs to be post-Trump. And they're concluding that blind loyalty to Trump isn't sustainable, that the party needs to evolve, needs to broaden its appeal, needs to stand for principles beyond defending one person. And those Republicans are more willing to break ranks, more willing to prioritize transparency, more willing to distance themselves from Trump when necessary. But older Republicans, those who rose to power during the Trump era, those whose political identities are tied to him, they can't make that calculation, can't distance themselves without undermining their own positions. So they double down, defend Trump more aggressively, attack colleagues who break ranks, and the result is civil war. The 2026 elections are looming over all of this. Republicans have to defend a lot of seats, have to win in districts that Biden carried, have to appeal to voters who are skeptical of Trump. And every scandal, every televised fight, every moment of chaos makes that harder, makes it easier for Democrats to paint Republicans as too extreme, too chaotic, too focused on Trump to govern effectively. And some Republicans see that clearly, see the electoral danger, and they're trying to create distance, trying to show they're independent, trying to appeal to moderate voters. But other Republicans think that's betrayal, think you have to go all in on Trump or you're not really Republican, and those competing imperatives are tearing the party apart. So let's break down what all of this means, why Republicans clashing on live TV over Trump matters so much, what the implications are for the party, for Trump, for governance, and for upcoming elections, because this isn't just entertaining political theater. This is a party having a nervous breakdown in public, and the consequences will shape American politics for years. So let's unpack it. First, the optics are terrible. When voters see Republicans fighting on TV, they don't get inspired, they get turned off. They think if Republicans can't even agree among themselves, how can they run the country? If they're more interested in protecting Trump than in solving problems, why should we trust them with power? And that perception is deadly in swing districts, in suburban areas that Republicans need to win to maintain majorities. In places where voters value competence and stability over partisan loyalty, these voters are watching Republicans self-destruct on television, watching them prioritize Trump's legal problems over kitchen table issues, watching them fight about Epstein files while people worry about inflation and healthcare and crime. And those voters are concluding that Republicans aren't serious, aren't focused on what matters, aren't worthy of support. Second, the split reveals fundamental disagreements about the party's direction. There's a faction that thinks the party is Trump's party, that loyalty to him is paramount, that defending him against all attacks is the core mission. And there's another faction that thinks the party needs to be bigger than one person, needs to stand for principles that outlast any individual leader, needs to appeal to voters beyond the MAGA base. And these factions are incompatible, can't coexist peacefully. One side thinks the other is betraying everything the party stands for. The other side thinks they're the only ones being realistic about electoral math, and that fundamental disagreement creates constant conflict, constant fighting, constant division that makes governing impossible. Third, Trump's authority is being challenged. For years, Trump has controlled the Republican Party through fear and loyalty, through the threat that crossing him means political death, through the promise that loyalty brings rewards. But now, we're seeing cracks, seeing members defy him and survive, seeing conservative Republicans break ranks without immediate consequences. And every time that happens, Trump's grip weakens a little, because if you can cross Trump and be fine, if you can vote against his wishes and keep your seat, then why be afraid? Why follow his demands? And once that fear dissipates, once Republicans start making independent decisions, Trump's control collapses. He becomes just another political figure, not the singular force that commands absolute loyalty. Fourth, the transparency fight is about more than Epstein. It's about whether Republicans will be the party of accountability or the party of cover-ups, whether they'll support releasing information even when it's uncomfortable, whether they'll prioritize truth or political convenience. And that's a defining choice, because voters are watching, voters who care about integrity, who care about government transparency, who want to know their representatives will do the right thing even when it's hard. And when Republicans fight to keep files secret, when they resist transparency, when they prioritize protecting powerful people over informing the public, those voters notice, and they punish Republicans for it at the ballot box. Fifth, the electoral implications are massive. We're heading into 2026, midterms where Republicans have to defend numerous seats, where they need to win in competitive districts to maintain control. And every moment of chaos, every televised fight, every scandal makes that harder, gives Democrats ammunition, creates opportunities for attack ads, makes voters question whether Republicans can govern. And some Republicans understand this, understand that they're at risk, understand that blind loyalty to Trump could cost them their seats, and that's why they're breaking ranks, why they're supporting transparency, why they're willing to clash publicly with pro-Trump colleagues, because they're calculating that independence is their best chance at political survival, that showing they're not Trump puppets helps with swing voters, that demonstrating independence is worth the risk of Trump's anger. Sixth, Johnson's weakening position. The speaker can't control his caucus, can't prevent defections, can't maintain discipline, and that's a serious problem, because a speaker without authority is ineffective, can't pass legislation, can't execute strategy, can't lead, and Johnson is showing all the signs of a speaker who's lost control. Members defying him on key votes, public fights that he can't stop, competing factions that he can't unite. And if this continues, if Johnson can't reassert authority, we could see another speaker fight, another motion to vacate, another round of chaos as Republicans try to find someone who can actually lead, and that would be devastating, would paralyze the House, would make Republicans look even more dysfunctional, would hand Democrats massive political advantages. 7th, the precedent for future fights. Because the Epstein files aren't the last issue where Republicans will disagree. There will be more Trump investigations, more scandals, more moments where Republicans have to choose between defending Trump and protecting themselves. And if defecting becomes normalized, if breaking ranks stops being taboo, then Trump loses his ability to enforce loyalty. Then every fight becomes a battle, every vote becomes uncertain, every issue creates divisions, and that makes the party ungovernable, makes it impossible to execute a coherent agenda, makes it impossible to present a unified front to voters, and Republicans become a collection of individuals rather than a party, each member doing what's best for themselves rather than what's best for the collective. And that's a recipe for electoral disaster. 8th, the moderate versus MAGA divide. This is the central tension in the modern Republican Party. Moderates think the party needs to broaden its appeal, needs to win suburban voters and independents, needs to soften its edges and focus on issues that matter to swing voters. MAGA thinks the party needs to be more aggressive, more populist, more focused on cultural issues and defending Trump. And those visions can't both be right, can't both succeed. So the party is constantly fighting about direction, about priorities, about what winning means. And that internal fight plays out on television, plays out in Congress, plays out in every election. It makes it really hard for Republicans to define themselves coherently, to explain to voters what they stand for, to build a coalition that can win consistently. 9th, the impact on Trump personally. These public fights hurt him, damage his image as the unchallenged leader of the party, show that his authority has limits, that Republicans will defy him when necessary, and that weakens him politically, makes him look less powerful, less in control. And in politics, perception matters. If Trump looks weak, if his hold on the party appears to be slipping, then donors get nervous, allies distance themselves, opponents grow bolder, and his political position deteriorates. So these televised clashes aren't just embarrassing for the party, they're damaging for Trump personally. They undermine the image of strength and dominance that's central to his brand. 10th, what Democrats do with this? Because they're not just passive observers, they're actively exploiting Republican divisions, running ads highlighting the chaos, pointing out that Republicans care more about protecting Trump than about governing, using clips of Republicans fighting on TV to show dysfunction, and positioning themselves as the alternative, as the party that can actually get things done, that focuses on real issues rather than Trump's legal problems, that governs competently rather than creating constant drama. And that message resonates with swing voters, with people who are tired of chaos, who want stability and competence. And every time Republicans fight on TV, so where does this leave us? With a Republican Party that's deeply divided, that can't agree on basic questions about Trump and transparency, that's fighting publicly in ways that hurt everyone, that's struggling to maintain unity or discipline, and that's heading into 2026 elections in the worst possible position, because voters are seeing all of this, are watching Republicans implode, are concluding that the party is too chaotic, too focused on Trump, too divided to govern effectively, and that's going to have consequences, electoral consequences, governing consequences, legacy consequences, because parties that tear themselves apart on television don't win elections, don't maintain power, don't achieve their policy goals, they just create chaos, and eventually voters punish them for it. The Epstein files fight is just one battle in a longer war, a war about what the Republican Party is and what it should be, about whether it's Trump's party or something bigger, about whether loyalty or accountability matters more, about whether the party can survive Trump or whether it's permanently tied to his fate. And we're watching that war play out in real time on television, in Congress, in elections, and the outcome will determine American politics for a generation, will shape what kind of party the GOP becomes, what kind of coalition it can build, what kind of future it has. So yeah, these live TV clashes matter. They're not just entertaining cable news moments. They're symptoms of a party in crisis, a party having an identity crisis in the most public way possible. And we'll be watching to see how it resolves, whether Republicans can find unity, whether Trump's grip holds or breaks, whether the party fractures completely or finds a way forward. Stay tuned, because this story is far from over, and the next chapter could be even more explosive than this one.